We'd been sitting in the same beige room every Tuesday evening for 3 months now, on the plush gray couch that felt anything but welcoming. At $200 per hour, you'd think the counselor, Dr. Stephen Hart, would at least offer coffee. Instead, we got bottled water and a box of tissues, both untouched, sitting awkwardly between me and Jessica. Jessica and I had been married for 16 years, long enough to settle into rhythms that felt more like ruts. We weren't unhappy, not really, just disconnected, floating on opposite sides of an emotional river with no bridge to cross. Our son, Tyler, was 15, gifted with a sharp intellect and a knack for technology. He was smart, maybe too smart for his own good. Dr. Hart was supposed to be the bridge that would bring Jessica and me back together. Instead, each session felt like another stone pried loose from the foundation of our marriage. Jessica would open up effortlessly, talking about her feelings, her needs, her desires. Things she'd stopped telling me years ago. I found myself mostly nodding, occasionally mumbling apologies, and wondering how we'd reached this point. "How does that sound to you, Jaybird?" Dr. Hart's voice cut through my wandering thoughts, and my stomach tightened. "Jaybird?" Jessica's eyes widened slightly. That nickname, familiar yet strange, hung in the air between us. Jessica had called me Jay since college, short for Jason. Jaybird was reserved for someone else, someone she'd only mentioned once. A brief fling during a separation years ago, long buried beneath layers of forgiveness and forgetfulness. Dr. Hart cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably in his leather chair. "Sorry, I meant Jason. Slip of the tongue." Jessica laughed nervously, her eyes darting between me and Dr. Hart. "That's okay," she said softly. But it wasn't okay. Later, as we drove home in strained silence, I replayed the slip-up in my mind. Why would he use that nickname? Jessica stared out the passenger side window, her fingers drumming against the glass. We pulled into our driveway, the garage light flickering as we stepped out into the cold evening. Inside, Tyler was in his room, headphones glued to his ears, probably gaming or programming something beyond my comprehension. Jessica disappeared into the bathroom, the door clicking shut softly, a familiar sign she was retreating to gather herself. I paced the bedroom, unsettled. Finally, I decided to knock on Tyler's door. He barely looked up as I walked in, eyes glued to his screen. "Hey, Dad," he mumbled, pulling one headphone off. "Hey, buddy." I tried to sound casual. "How's it going?" "Fine." He glanced up, sensing something was off. "You good?" "Yeah." I hesitated. "Listen, about your mom and me. Are we okay?" He shrugged, nonchalant but observant. "Sure, why?" "No reason." I paused, looking around his room. "Just want you to know we're trying to fix things." Tyler nodded slowly. "I know. I'm not worried." His confidence surprised me. Maybe he knew something I didn't. Or maybe he was just putting on a brave face. Either way, his calmness unsettled me further. That night, sleep evaded me. I lay awake, listening to Jessica's steady breathing beside me, the bed suddenly feeling like a chasm between us. The nickname wouldn't leave my mind, gnawing like an itch I couldn't scratch. Then, around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Tyler. "Strange for this hour. Check your email. I recorded something you need to hear." I slipped out of bed and moved to the home office, my heart racing as I opened my inbox. There was an audio file labeled simply vent_recording. Tyler, ever resourceful, had bugged our vents, a trick he'd used before to prank friends. I'd scolded him for invading people's privacy, but tonight, I hesitated only a moment before hitting play. A muffled voice filled the room, clearly Jessica's. Soft laughter, warm and playful, made my chest ache. Then another voice came through, deep and familiar, but definitely not mine. "I miss you already, Jaybird. You looked amazing tonight." Dr. Hart's voice. My hands trembled as the truth sank in. Our marriage counselor, the man we were paying to save our relationship, was the very person destroying it. Rage boiled beneath my shock, swiftly replaced by a cold, calculated clarity. Jessica had chosen her confidant, and it wasn't me. But what she didn't know yet was that I'd just found mine. Tyler, the smartest ally I could have asked for. Together, we'd face whatever came next. The morning after hearing Tyler's recording felt like waking up inside someone else's life. Jessica's alarm went off at the usual 6:30 a.m., buzzing softly, dragging her back to reality. She groaned lightly and stretched out an arm, fingers brushing my shoulder like nothing had changed. I forced myself to remain still, my eyes closed, breathing even, a picture-perfect act of normalcy. My heart hammered in my chest, and I silently rehearsed the same phrase in my mind. Keep it together, Jason. Pretend like everything is fine. Jessica got out of bed, the wooden floor creaking beneath her weight, and I finally let my eyes open to watch her quietly leave the room. It was strange seeing her now, through different eyes. Was she always this composed, this good at deception? Or had she learned it from Dr. Hart, our so-called marriage savior? When I finally emerged downstairs, Jessica had already poured her coffee, sipping slowly while scrolling on her phone. Her eyes lifted to meet mine, and she smiled softly. The smile looked the same as always, comforting, familiar, and absolutely devastating. "Good morning, Jay," she said lightly, oblivious to the sharp pain the shortened version of that nickname now caused me. I fought hard not to flinch. "Mornin'," I replied evenly, reaching past her for my coffee cup. "Sleep okay?" She nodded, taking another casual sip. "Yeah, you." I hesitated just a moment too long, but she didn't notice. She was already back to reading her messages. "Fine." Tyler joined us moments later, his hair still a mess from sleep, eyes heavy but cautious as he glanced my way. He knew something had shifted, even if his mother didn't. "Hey, kiddo," Jessica said, ruffling Tyler's hair affectionately. "Mom." Tyler's voice was clipped, and I caught the slight tension there, like he was wrestling with something deep inside. "Dad." "Hey, Ty." I responded, trying to keep my voice steady. We made brief eye contact, exchanging silent understanding. I was grateful he was old enough to handle himself, smart enough to keep secrets, and mature enough to know when to play along. Breakfast was tense. It felt like we were three actors in some play nobody had rehearsed. Jessica was cheerful, chatting about weekend plans, shopping trips, and an upcoming school event. I nodded along, keeping my eyes on my plate, chewing mechanically, every bite tasting of bitterness. Tyler remained quiet, his eyes flickering nervously between us. He pushed around his eggs, barely eating. Jessica noticed, frowning slightly. "Not hungry." He shrugged, glancing at me before looking away quickly. "Just tired." Jessica seemed satisfied, and conversation slowly faded away into quiet again. Soon, Tyler excused himself, and I knew he'd be waiting upstairs, eager to talk. I helped clear the table, fighting the urge to shatter every dish in sight, and then excused myself to the office. Jessica gave me a gentle smile as I passed by her, warm and empty. Upstairs, Tyler sat waiting at the desk, already pulling up something on his laptop. "You good?" he asked immediately, concern etched deep into his young face. I sighed, rubbing my eyes. "I don't know yet, Ty." "You." "Furious," he admitted quietly, turning his laptop screen toward me. "But I found more." "What did you find?" Tyler pointed to an email inbox, clearly Dr. Hart's. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. "How'd you get that?" Tyler's eyes flashed mischievously, a hint of pride creeping in. "He's not exactly a cybersecurity expert. Simple password." I almost laughed, despite myself. "Kid, you're terrifying." His face softened, becoming serious again. "He and Mom are emailing constantly. It's gross." He shuddered, clearly uncomfortable. I scanned the messages, stomach turning as I read their exchanges. Words of longing, plans for secret meetings, intimate references that twisted my gut into knots. Jessica had lied to my face, but here she was, pouring her heart out to Dr. Hart, sharing details of our sessions, our marriage, our family. "They talk about you," Tyler whispered cautiously, watching me read. "About how you're clueless, how easy it's been. It's like it's a game." Anger pulsed through me, quick and fiery. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, to regain control. I looked at Tyler, saw the hurt mirrored in his eyes. "I'm sorry you had to see all this." He shook his head defiantly. "No, I needed to know. I hate them for doing this." "I get that," I told him, laying a hand on his shoulder. "But we have to be smart about how we handle it." "What do we do?" Tyler's voice cracked slightly, showing a vulnerability he rarely allowed. I hesitated, looking back at the screen. "Right now? Nothing. We wait." Tyler frowned, clearly dissatisfied. "Wait for what?" "An opportunity," I replied softly, thoughts already spinning in my mind. "Something we can use. Proof beyond doubt. We're not going to let them get away with this." Tyler nodded slowly, eyes narrowing with resolve. "You promise?" "I promise." I whispered, hoping it sounded stronger than I felt. The days dragged on like that. Every session with Dr. Hart became an excruciating exercise in pretending. I laughed at his jokes, nodded at his advice, even took notes. I played the perfect, clueless husband, knowing each smile was met with condescension behind his eyes. Jessica's gaze softened toward me at times, almost pitying, as if she regretted what she'd done but couldn't bring herself to stop. It took every ounce of willpower to maintain the charade. But as the weeks passed, a plan began to take shape. I needed something undeniable, something that would publicly unravel the image Dr. Hart had so carefully cultivated. Then, one evening after dinner, Jessica casually mentioned a couple's retreat Dr. Hart had recommended, a weekend away to strengthen our bond. She offered the idea tentatively, almost guiltily, as though she doubted I would accept. Instead, I smiled broadly, surprising her. "You know what? That's a great idea. We should book it." Jessica blinked, momentarily stunned. "Really?" I nodded enthusiastically. "Absolutely. This might be exactly what we need." She smiled, looking relieved, though guilt still flickered in her eyes. "Okay, I'll let Dr. Hart know." I smiled again, though this time it felt genuine. Let him know, indeed. The retreat was perfect, exactly the opportunity I'd been waiting for. As Jessica left the room to message Dr. Hart, I caught Tyler's eye across the table. He looked worried, uncertain. I nodded reassuringly, mouthing silently. "Trust me." Tyler nodded slowly back, eyes burning with hope and trust. We'd get our revenge, but we'd do it on my terms. And when we struck, neither Jessica nor Dr. Hart would see it coming. The retreat was set for the weekend after next, in a luxurious mountain lodge that advertised itself as a sanctuary for reconnecting couples. Dr. Hart had eagerly endorsed the idea, claiming it would do wonders for our intimacy and trust. The irony almost made me laugh aloud, but I swallowed my bitterness and maintained the facade. In the days leading up to the retreat, Jessica seemed genuinely lighter, as though the weight of deception was easier to bear now that she believed she'd soon have the weekend she truly wanted, with Hart, not me. She even acted affectionate again, touching my arm softly as she passed me in the kitchen, leaving lingering glances over dinner. The duplicity was almost breathtaking. But Tyler and I had our own preparations to make. We spoke in hushed conversations when Jessica wasn't home, strategizing over takeout pizza and notes scribbled on paper, paranoid that texts or emails might be discovered. "I think I've figured out a way to track their phones," Tyler explained one night, pulling up an app one didn't recognize. "It's legal. Well, mostly, and it should give us their exact locations and timestamps." Solid proof. I raised an eyebrow at him, impressed and slightly uneasy. "You learned that on your own?" He shrugged modestly. "Read it mostly." "You scare me, kid," I admitted, but I felt proud. Tyler, at 15, had already become my greatest ally. He'd matured overnight, and in some strange way, this betrayal had brought us closer together. But this wasn't enough. Location data alone might confirm an affair, but I wanted undeniable proof. Proof that would shatter Dr. Hart's reputation, shake Jessica from her smug complacency, and vindicate every dollar I'd spent trusting this fraud. And I needed something I could share, something that couldn't be dismissed as circumstantial. That's when the idea hit me, a hidden camera. I went to an electronics store far from home and purchased a small, discreet camera marketed for home security. The device looked like a smoke detector, easy to overlook, but it had powerful video and audio capabilities. Tyler helped me set it up, careful to position it in the bedroom in a way that it would capture everything clearly without being noticeable. "You sure about this?" Tyler asked hesitantly as we stepped back, staring at the camera's subtle design. "I have to be," I said quietly. "If we're going to do this, we do it right." His eyes searched mine. "But Dad, you're okay with seeing this?" "It might." I placed a hand on his shoulder, squeezing gently. "It'll hurt, I know. But what hurts more is being lied to day after day. If I don't face this now, they'll keep laughing behind my back. That's not something I can live with." Tyler nodded slowly, his face tightening with resolve. "Then we'll do it right." In the days before the retreat, Jessica's enthusiasm grew. She began packing early, buying new outfits, making salon appointments. Each smile, each excited detail she shared with me was like salt in a wound, but I nodded and played along, complimenting her on how beautiful she looked. I think this could really help us, she told me earnestly one evening, gently brushing her fingertips across my knuckles. Maybe we'll finally find each other again. Maybe we will. I agreed, forcing my voice steady. I wondered how long she'd rehearsed that line, whether Dr. Hart had written it for her. The Friday morning of the retreat arrived, bright and crisp. Jessica loaded the car with her suitcase, eyes glittering with excitement and just a trace of guilt. She hugged Tyler, kissing his forehead and promising we'd return better, stronger. I watched silently, forcing a smile as she moved towards me next. Ready? She asked softly, eyes searching mine for any hesitation. Ready, I confirmed, allowing her a small kiss, feeling nothing but cold detachment beneath her warmth. We drove in strained silence. Jessica tried to make small talk, but eventually gave up, settling back into her seat with a content sigh. The lodge appeared over the next hill, sprawling and impressive, nestled among tall evergreens. It was picturesque, exactly the type of place Jessica adored. Dr. Hart greeted us warmly in the lobby, professionally detached, no hint of impropriety visible beneath his practiced smile. He wore an expensive sweater, glasses perched thoughtfully on his nose. So glad you made it, he said, shaking my hand firmly, his gaze steady, hiding the deceit behind friendly concern. This weekend can be transformative, Jason. I'm sure, I said evenly, meeting his gaze. We're counting on it. After check-in, we attended the opening group session. Other couples spoke openly about their struggles, seeking solace and guidance. Jessica joined in, earnestly discussing communication, intimacy, and honesty, her voice catching with emotion. It was a remarkable performance. Dr. Hart's encouraging nods almost fooled me too. By evening, Jessica claimed a headache and suggested we skip dinner to rest. Predictable. I pretended to be understanding, assuring her I'd be fine at dinner alone. I watched her retreat toward our room, noticing the fleeting look she exchanged with Dr. Hart from across the dining hall. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to confirm their plan. I waited, allowing the evening to drift on until most couples had retreated to their rooms. I left the lodge's cozy common area, walking slowly toward our suite. The hallway was dim, the sound of muffled conversations faint through thick walls. I paused outside the room door, pulse pounding. My fingers hovered briefly over the handle, heart heavy with anticipation and dread. Carefully, I slid the key card in and pushed the door open, stepping inside quietly. Soft whispers from the bedroom confirmed everything. I steadied myself, breathing deeply, and quietly stepped into position behind a tall, decorative screen in the living area, a place we'd chosen for precisely this moment. On my phone, the feed from the camera appeared perfectly clear. Tyler had done his job well. On the small screen, Jessica and Dr. Hart spoke intimately, their conversation shamelessly casual. I listened silently, feeling numbness replace anger. They spoke of future plans, vacations, shared laughter at my ignorance. It was surreal, painful, and necessary. My heart pounded fiercely. As painful as it was exactly the evidence I needed. No excuses, no explanations possible. They'd walked right into our trap. Quietly, I left the room unnoticed, retreating to the lodge's empty lounge, where I uploaded the video securely. Tyler's messages pinged eagerly. Did we get them? I sent back a brief, decisive reply. We got them. Now came the hard part, deciding how to use this evidence. I'd thought about this endlessly, envisioning revenge scenarios, justice, humiliation. But now, clarity arrived. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about accountability, holding them responsible in a way that would genuinely matter. I composed emails carefully, one to Dr. Hart's licensing board, another to a well-known parenting podcast that Jessica obsessively followed. I included details, timestamps, and of course, the undeniable footage. Then, with fingers trembling, I sent Tyler a final text. When I tell you, you know what to do. He replied quickly, confidence clear. Ready. As night stretched onward, I returned to our room, pretending ignorance as Jessica lay sleeping innocently beside me, unaware that by morning her carefully constructed deception would collapse. She and Dr. Hart had set their own trap, but Tyler and I had turned the tables, and tomorrow they'd discover exactly what they'd lost in their reckless gamble. Morning arrived, deceptively calm, sunlight spilling through sheer curtains and warming the room. Jessica lay sleeping, peaceful and serene, oblivious to the storm gathering around her. I watched her quietly from the corner chair, clutching a cup of coffee, savoring its bitterness as I braced myself for what was about to unfold. I checked my phone once more, rereading the carefully composed emails I'd sent late last night. One to Dr. Hart's professional licensing board, another to the parenting podcast Jessica obsessively followed, titled Family Matters, whose entire platform rested on advocating honesty, transparency, and respect in marriage. They jumped at the story almost immediately, promising swift action. The evidence was undeniable, damning, and deeply compelling. Across town, Tyler was ready, armed with a short, carefully edited clip packaged precisely for TikTok. He'd worked through the night, eyes heavy yet determined, meticulously timing its release for maximum effect. He understood social media better than anyone I knew, and the fact that he was about to expose his mother's betrayal to the world hadn't escaped me. It was harsh, yet necessary, a choice I wished desperately we'd never had to make. Jessica stirred softly, stretching before opening her eyes slowly. She smiled sleepily when she saw me, still maintaining the facade. "Good morning, Jay. Up early. Couldn't sleep," I replied quietly, voice neutral. She sat up, rubbing her eyes, glancing at the empty space beside her. "I'm sorry I crashed so early last night. Hope you weren't too bored." I offered a tight smile. "Not at all." It was revealing. She raised an eyebrow slightly, puzzled, but shrugged it off. "Good. Want to get breakfast?" "Sure," I said, rising slowly. "But first, we have something to talk about." Jessica hesitated, sensing a change in my tone, cautious but unaware of what I knew. "Okay, what is it?" "Dr. Hart," I said evenly. Her expression froze instantly, a mask slipping for just a moment before she caught herself. "What about him?" Her voice was casual, controlled, but her eyes darted quickly toward the floor. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I know, Jessica. I know everything." She swallowed visibly, eyes widening slightly before narrowing in stubborn defiance. "Know what exactly? Don't play dumb. It's beneath you." My voice hardened, colder than I'd intended. "The affair, the lies, all of it." She stood suddenly, panic flashing across her face, replaced quickly by anger. "You're crazy, Jay. There's nothing." "Stop," I interrupted sharply, pulling out my phone and opening the video file. "You don't get to lie anymore. Watch." Jessica stared in disbelief, then horror, as the video began playing. Her own voice echoed softly from the screen, intimate whispers with Dr. Hart unmistakably clear. Her hands trembled violently as she took in the damning images, her face draining of color. Finally, she turned away, unable to bear more, tears streaming down her face. "You bugged us." Her voice was barely audible, raw with shock. "I did what I had to," I replied calmly. "You forced my hand. Do you realize the damage you've caused? Do you even care?" She sank onto the edge of the bed, burying her face in her hands, sobbing softly. "I'm sorry," she whispered brokenly. "I never meant to get caught." I finished bitterly. "That's the problem, Jess. You were sorry you got caught, not sorry for hurting us. Especially Tyler." She flinched visibly at our son's name, guilt briefly overwhelming her shame. "Does he know?" "Tyler knows," I said coldly. "He figured it out before I did. He's the one who discovered your betrayal. Imagine what that feels like for him. He trusted you completely." Jessica shook her head, broken. "I never meant to hurt him. I swear." "Too late," I replied softly. "You've lost him already. You chose Dr. Hart over your family." At that exact moment, her phone buzzed frantically, notifications flooding in, messages, alerts, calls. Jessica picked it up, visibly shaking, and began scrolling desperately. Her eyes widened further, breathing quickening as she took in the notifications. "Oh my God," she gasped, horror-struck. "What did you do?" "Exactly what needed doing," I said steadily. "I sent the footage to Hart's licensing board and leaked it publicly. It's out there now, every detail, every lie. And Tyler, he's posted it online. On TikTok." Her expression shattered completely, realization dawning. "Why would you do that? Why involve the world? Think of our reputation. Think of Tyler." "I am thinking of Tyler," I snapped fiercely, finally letting the anger pour forth. "I'm showing him that betrayal has consequences. He deserves the truth, even if it hurts. He deserves parents who respect him enough not to lie." Jessica fell silent, sobbing quietly, eyes fixed on the flood of social media notifications condemning her, Dr. Hart, their hypocrisy laid bare before thousands. It was already going viral, spiraling far beyond anything she could control. Suddenly, pounding came from the hallway, a frantic knock at our door. Jessica stood, trembling, tears still streaming down her face as I moved to open it. Dr. Hart stood there, visibly shaken, eyes wild with panic. "Jason, please, we need to talk." I glared at him coldly, unmoved. "No, we don't. But your licensing board probably does." "Listen, Jason." He stepped forward, desperation evident, only stopping when I blocked his path with deliberate firmness. "You destroyed your career, Stephen. You violated every ethical guideline you swore to uphold. You betrayed my trust, my family. But the worst part? You played us for fools, profiting off our pain. It's over." He staggered back, as if physically struck, eyes darting helplessly toward Jessica. "Jess, say something." She shook her head, defeated, broken. "It's too late, Stephen. Everything's gone." Dr. Hart's shoulders slumped, awareness finally sinking in. "Please, Jason, think this through." "I already did," I replied quietly, shutting the door firmly in his face. Jessica sank back onto the bed, shaking uncontrollably, face buried in her hands. Her phone continued buzzing relentlessly, harsh reminders of the ruin she'd brought upon herself. "Pack your things," I told her quietly, turning away. "I don't care where you go, but it's time you left." She looked up at me once more, eyes filled with pleading desperation. "Jake, please, don't end us like this. Give me a chance." "You had your chance," I interrupted softly, sadness mixing with resolve. "You threw it away. And worse, you betrayed your son. There's no coming back from that." She lowered her head in defeat, and I left the room without another word, stepping into the hallway, breathing deeply, finally feeling the weight lift. It hurt. God, it hurt, but I felt relief too. The lies were exposed, justice done. My phone buzzed softly again, a message from Tyler. "It's everywhere. People are furious. You okay?" I smiled weakly, responding honestly. "I will be." As I walked toward the lobby, leaving Jessica and Dr. Hart behind in their shared disgrace, I finally understood the truth. Our marriage had ended long before this betrayal. Jessica had made her choice. Now it was time to make mine. Tyler and I would rebuild from this wreckage, stronger than before. We'd survived deception, betrayal, and pain. But we'd survived together. And in the end, perhaps that was victory enough. The weeks after the fallout passed slowly, like a haze lifting after a storm. Jessica moved out swiftly and quietly, retreating to a rented apartment on the outskirts of town, far from the whispers and judgmental stares that trailed her in grocery stores, cafes, and parking lots. Dr. Hart disappeared almost entirely, quickly stripped of his license amid a firestorm of public backlash and professional humiliation. Tyler and I settled into a quiet routine, simpler, calmer, and inevitably tinged with sadness. Our home felt both emptier and somehow safer, as though we'd excised a painful infection and were now healing, slowly but steadily. Tyler, ever resilient, threw himself into schoolwork and extracurricular activities, attempting to regain some normalcy. But sometimes, late at night, I'd hear his music stop, replaced by silence, and wonder how deeply the scars ran beneath his outward strength. One evening, after dinner, I found him sitting alone on the back porch, eyes fixed absently on the fading sunset. The air felt cool, crisp, signaling the approaching change in seasons. I eased down beside him, handing over a cup of hot cocoa. He smiled gratefully, but said nothing, eyes returning to the horizon. "How are you holding up?" I finally asked softly. Tyler hesitated before answering. "Better than I thought, I guess. Still angry sometimes, though." "That's understandable," I said gently, sipping my own drink. "Anger fades eventually. But betrayal, it lingers a bit longer." He nodded slowly, gripping his cup tighter. "Do you think she'll ever apologize to me?" I sighed, considering my response carefully. "I don't know. Maybe. But apologies don't always mean forgiveness. You don't owe her anything." Tyler turned to me, expression serious. "Have you forgiven her?" I paused, weighing my words. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I have accepted it. It's not about her anymore. It's about us moving forward." He nodded thoughtfully, eyes thoughtful. "I don't hate her. But I don't trust her either. Trust is a tough thing to rebuild, I admitted quietly. But you and me, we're solid. She can't take that from us. His face softened, and he offered a small smile. Yeah, I know. Thanks for everything, Dad. I wrapped an arm around his shoulder, pulling him close. Thank you for standing by me, son. You saved me, too. In the days that followed, messages continued pouring in. Texts, voicemails, emails. Friends and neighbors expressed sympathy, shock, and curiosity in equal measure. Jessica had reached out several times, begging for a chance to explain, but I ignored her calls. The explanations she offered meant nothing now. Her betrayal was burned into my memory, etched deeply enough that no words could erase the damage done. Eventually, the world's attention moved on to new scandals, fresh gossip replacing old. Dr. Hart moved quietly to another city, retreating into anonymity. Jessica kept a low profile, apparently too humiliated to face the community she'd once thrived in. Life continued, altered but stable, our wounds gradually healing. Then one Saturday, out of the blue, Jessica appeared at the front door, looking hesitant, nervous, and fragile. Tyler had gone to soccer practice, leaving me alone. She seemed smaller, diminished somehow, her eyes tired from weeks of guilt and regret. Jason, please, just give me 5 minutes, she begged softly, eyes pleading. Reluctantly, I stepped aside, allowing her inside the home she'd once called her own. She moved slowly, as if wary of breaking something else. We settled into opposite chairs in the living room, the space between us vast and uncomfortable. What do you want, Jessica? I finally asked, voice distant but calm. Her eyes filled instantly with tears. I'm so sorry, Jay. I never meant. Stop, I interrupted gently. I don't need to hear that you didn't mean it. You meant every decision you made. What I want to know is why. Why throw everything away? Jessica lowered her head, shame washing over her features. I was lost, confused. I thought Stephen understood me in ways you couldn't. He manipulated me. I let him. It doesn't excuse anything, but that's the truth. I shook my head, disappointed but unsurprised. It was easier to betray me than face our issues. She nodded slightly, voice breaking. Yes, I ran from my problems instead of dealing with them. And when I realized how wrong I'd been, how badly I'd hurt you and Tyler, it was too late. It was, I agreed quietly, sadness creeping into my voice. You destroyed our family, Jessica. And worse, you betrayed our son. You made him carry a burden no child should have to bear. She began sobbing softly, nodding through tears. I know, and it's tearing me apart every single day. I miss you both desperately. I believe that, I said carefully. But missing someone isn't enough to earn forgiveness. Actions matter. What can I do? She pleaded softly, looking up hopefully. How do I even begin to fix this? You can't fix what's been broken, I replied calmly. But you can learn from it. You need to rebuild yourself first, Jessica. Earn your own forgiveness before asking for ours. She fell silent, absorbing my words, resignation slowly replacing hope. Finally, she stood, realizing there was nothing left to say. She moved toward the door slowly, pausing to glance back once more. Do you think Tyler will ever forgive me? She asked, voice barely audible. That's up to him, I answered gently. But he's stronger than you realize. Just give him time. She nodded slowly, then opened the door and stepped outside, disappearing quietly down the street. As the door clicked shut behind her, I exhaled deeply, feeling strangely lighter. Closure, perhaps, though not forgiveness, not yet. That evening, as Tyler returned home from practice, sweaty and smiling, I found myself unexpectedly grateful. Despite everything, our bond had grown deeper, stronger through shared pain and mutual resilience. We'd emerged battered but unbroken, father and son more united than ever before. Everything okay, Dad? Tyler asked, noticing my thoughtful expression. I smiled warmly, feeling genuine peace for the first time in weeks. Yes, son. Everything's good. Really good. He returned the smile, looking relieved, secure in knowing he was safe and loved despite the storm we'd endured. As we headed toward the kitchen, talking casually about dinner plans, I knew we'd survive whatever else life threw our way. Jessica had broken our family apart, but Tyler and I had rebuilt it, stronger, more honest, more resilient. Perhaps forgiveness would come in time, or perhaps not. But either way, we'd heal. Together. And in the end, that's all that truly mattered. Time has a strange way of smoothing over jagged edges, softening the harsh lines that betrayal and pain carve into our lives. Months had passed since Jessica stood broken at our doorstep, and each passing day seemed to bring new clarity, new acceptance. The house that once felt haunted by lies now felt warm, welcoming, a sanctuary rather than a prison. Tyler and I had found peace, albeit slowly. He'd become stronger, more independent, his sharp intellect and empathy guiding him through the turbulence. Our relationship had transformed from father and son into true partnership, built on trust and mutual respect. One bright Saturday afternoon, I sat in the stands watching Tyler dominate his high school soccer match. He moved effortlessly, confident and carefree, laughter echoing across the field as he celebrated goals with teammates. His resilience amazed me daily. Despite all he'd endured, his spirit remained bright and untarnished. Beside me sat my close friend Chris, sipping coffee and nodding approvingly as Tyler scored again. "That kid's incredible, Jason," Chris remarked. "Seems like he's bounced back well." "Better than I expected," I admitted, smiling proudly. "He's stronger than me, that's for sure." Chris clapped me on the shoulder gently. "Don't sell yourself short, brother. You guided him through hell and back. You deserve credit." "Thanks," I said quietly. Some days I still wonder if we handled things right. Exposing it publicly, Tyler sharing it on TikTok. Maybe it was too much. Chris shook his head firmly. "They brought it on themselves, Jason. You both did what was necessary. You protected your son and yourself. Never regret that." I sighed, eyes fixed thoughtfully on Tyler's bright, carefree face as he ran across the field. "You're probably right." "Definitely right," Chris affirmed confidently. "Have you spoken to Jessica lately?" I hesitated briefly. "A couple times. She's trying, I'll give her that. Therapy, support groups. She seems genuinely remorseful." "Would you ever consider reconciling?" Chris asked cautiously, watching my reaction closely. I shook my head without hesitation. "No. Forgiving is one thing, but forgetting isn't possible. Trust is gone, and some things can't be rebuilt." Chris nodded slowly, understanding completely. "Fair enough. But remember, you deserve happiness, Jason. You deserve someone who values you." I smiled slightly, feeling genuine warmth toward my friend. "Maybe someday. For now, Tyler's my focus. He deserves stability after everything." As the game ended victoriously, Tyler jogged over, face flushed and smiling widely. "Did you see that last goal, Dad? Total game winner." I laughed, pulling him into a brief hug. "You were amazing, Ty. Proud of you." His eyes sparkled happily, and for a moment, everything felt perfectly balanced. Our small world, once shattered, had been rebuilt stronger than ever. Jessica's betrayal had hurt deeply, but it hadn't broken us, not permanently. That evening, as we shared pizza and laughter, Tyler hesitated suddenly, growing quiet. He looked thoughtful, slightly anxious. "Everything okay, kiddo?" I asked softly. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I saw Mom today. After school, she was parked outside, waiting." I paused carefully, setting my plate down. "Did she talk to you?" He shrugged lightly. "Briefly. She just wanted to apologize again. She looks different. Healthier, maybe." "That's good to hear," I replied gently, observing his reaction closely. "How do you feel about seeing her?" Tyler exhaled deeply. "It was weird, but okay. I think I forgave her. I'm still mad, but I don't hate her anymore." "Forgiveness is a powerful thing," I agreed softly. "But remember, forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to let them back in fully. You choose how close you keep her." He nodded seriously. "I know, but it felt good letting go of the anger." I smiled warmly, feeling immense pride. "I'm glad, Tyler. Holding on to anger can be exhausting." He hesitated briefly, then asked quietly, "Do you think you'll forgive her, Dad?" I considered carefully, weighing my response. "In some ways, yes. I understand she's human and flawed. But reconciliation? No. Too much damage has been done." Tyler nodded slowly, accepting this with mature understanding. "I get it. I wouldn't trust her again either. Not fully." The weeks passed, bringing further clarity. Jessica occasionally messaged, polite but distant, never pushing boundaries. Dr. Hart had vanished entirely from our lives, leaving behind only a cautionary tale. The public's interest had faded, leaving us free from constant scrutiny. Life settled back into normal rhythms, quieter but more authentic. Then one afternoon, months later, a letter arrived, handwritten, unfamiliar. I opened it cautiously, surprised by its sender, Jessica. Her handwriting was careful, deliberate, each word chosen thoughtfully. Jason, I've struggled with how to say this, but it needs to be said. I'm sorry for everything. The pain, the betrayal, the damage I caused you and Tyler. Losing both of you broke something inside me, but it also opened my eyes. I'm getting help now, facing my flaws, working to become someone worthy of forgiveness. I don't expect reconciliation, only your understanding that I never stopped loving either of you, despite my horrible choices. Please tell Tyler how proud I am of the young man he's become. He's strong because of you, Jason. You protected him when I failed to. You're a remarkable father, and he's lucky to have you. I wish you both happiness. Maybe someday, forgiveness too. Until then, know I deeply regret the pain I've caused. With sincere remorse. Jessica. I folded the letter carefully, feeling unexpected sadness and quiet relief. Jessica had finally accepted responsibility, acknowledged her wrongdoing. Perhaps forgiveness wasn't impossible after all, even if reconciliation remained out of reach. I tucked the letter away, choosing to hold on to it, not as a symbol of reconciliation, but as evidence of closure, of peace. That night, as Tyler and I prepared dinner together, laughter filling our home, I found myself feeling deeply grateful. Our lives had been tested severely, scarred by betrayal, yet we'd emerged stronger, wiser, and united. Jessica's affair had shaken us, but ultimately, it failed to destroy what truly mattered. Tyler noticed my thoughtful expression and smiled curiously. You good, Dad? I nodded warmly, ruffling his hair affectionately. Yeah, Ty? Better than good. We shared smiles, unspoken understanding passing between us. The storm had passed, leaving behind strength forged from pain, trust rebuilt through honesty. Our family, though changed forever, had survived. Betrayal had defined our past, but it wouldn't determine our future. Tyler and I had earned happiness, earned peace. And now, together, we'd embrace whatever came next, stronger, wiser, and truly free. Subscribe to the channel